You know, the story of the internet is one of those epic tales of our time. It starts with this beautiful, utopian dream of connecting the entire world. And it ends, well, it ends with us, right now, carrying that dream and all of its messy complications right here in our pockets. So let's unpack that journey, the incredible promise versus the pretty steep price. You'd think a revolution like the internet would kick off with some profound, world-changing first message, right? Well, the truth is, it's a lot more human and honestly, kind of funny. Way back in 1969, a group of scientists tried to send the very first message from one computer to another. The word they were trying to send? Login. Simple enough? But they only got two letters out before the whole system came crashing down. L-O. That's it. As in, lo and behold, it's broken. It's actually the perfect beginning for a technology that would change absolutely everything. It didn't start with a flawless command. It started with an error message. So how on earth did a two-letter failure manage to kickstart a global revolution? Well, that first experiment, glitches and all, was the great-grandparent of the internet that you and I use every single day. It was called ARPANET, and you have to picture what it was like back in the late 60s. If you were a scientist, sharing data meant physically mailing these huge, heavy punch cards or getting on a plane. ARPANET was built to solve that problem, to create a network so researchers could collaborate without ever having to leave their labs. And the secret sauce that made it all work was this genius idea called packet switching. See, instead of sending a big chunk of data down one single fragile phone line, they broke it up into these tiny little pieces, or packets. Think of it like mailing a jigsaw puzzle, but one piece at a time. Each piece could take a totally different route to get there, and the computer on the other end would just put it all back together. It was flexible, it was fast, and it was incredibly tough to break. Okay, but a military research project is still a long, long way from a global platform for everybody. The next big leap wasn't just about the tech. It was really about a shift in philosophy. It was about turning this niche tool into a public square for the world. By the 80s, you had all these different computer networks popping up, but they all spoke different digital languages. The breakthrough came in '83 with something called TCP/IP. You can just think of it as a universal language and a passport for data. Suddenly, for the very first time, there was a common set of rules that let all these separate networks talk to each other, creating one single unified internet. And that open, collaborative spirit was just perfectly captured by Sir Tim Berners-Lee. He's the guy who invented the World Wide Web. You know, the www system of links and browsers we still use. He could have patented it. He could have become one of the wealthiest people on the planet. But instead, he gave it to the world totally free and just said, this is for everyone. It was really the peak of that utopian dream. But you know what happens when there's that much promise, right? Massive promise leads to massive speculation. And that dream of a new digital economy, it quickly inflated into the first great cautionary tale of the internet age, the dot-com bubble. So why'd that happen? Well, as the economist Robert Shiller explained, people just got swept up in the story. They stopped looking at things like actual profits and started investing based on pure, unfiltered hype about what the future could be. It was a textbook case of what he called irrational exuberance. And when that bubble finally burst, the cost was just staggering. The NASDAQ stock market lost almost 80% of its value. That wiped out something like $5 trillion in market value. Just gone. And this wasn't just numbers on a spreadsheet. It created a real-life digital ghost town. Companies that had become household names almost overnight, like Pets.com with its famous sock puppet commercials, or the grocery delivery service Webvan, they just vanished. All that was left was a trail of broken promises and bankruptcies. So after the economic crash came a social one. From the ashes of that dot-com disaster, a new kind of internet started to rise. This one was less about selling you stuff and more about, well, us. But this new social internet, it came with a very different kind of price tag. And man, did it happen fast. In the span of just 6 years, the big three platforms that would completely redefine our social lives all launched. Facebook in 2004, Twitter in 2006, and then Instagram in 2010. And they all promised the same thing, connection, on a scale we'd never seen before. But pretty quickly, this strange paradox started to appear. As MIT professor Sherry Turkle put it, we found ourselves alone together. We were more connected than ever before in history, yet so many of us felt more isolated. This constant tethering to our devices started to take the place of real, face-to-face connection.
So what's going on here? Well, it all comes down to the business model. Look, the stated goal is always to connect people. But the real goal of what we call the attention economy is to keep your eyeballs glued to the platform for as long as humanly possible. Why? Because that's how they sell ads. Your attention isn't the service, it's the product being sold.
And the algorithms figured something out pretty quickly, something that's actually kind of disturbing. Nothing keeps our attention quite like a powerful negative emotion. It turns out that content sparking anger or fear gets way more engagement, more clicks, more comments, more shares than content that sparks joy. So the system, whether it's intentional or not, is designed to amplify the most divisive and emotionally charged stuff. And that brings us right up to today. All of this history, the utopian dream, the market crash, the outrage algorithms, it's no longer just something on our desks. It lives with us, in our pockets 24/7. The launch of the iPhone back in 2007 really was the final massive turning point. It put the full power and all the peril of the internet into a device that we practically never put down, and that fundamentally changed our relationship with everything, with technology, with the world, and most of all, with each other. And this has raised a really profound concern, something that thinkers like Nicholas Carr call the erosion of our cognitive sovereignty. It's a fancy term, but it's a simple idea. It's our ability to think for ourselves, to reflect deeply, and to form our own opinions, without this constant buzz of notifications and algorithm-fed content shaping our thoughts for us. This quote from Sherry Turkle it really hits the nail on the head, doesn't it? It perfectly sums up the trade-off we seem to have made. In our search for more convenience and connection from technology, we may have started demanding less from the messy, difficult, but ultimately rewarding work of real human relationships. Which leaves us with this one big, nagging question. Right now, in your hand, you hold a device that offers you infinite information, infinite connection. But in gaining the whole world at our fingertips, what might we have lost? Have we traded away the quiet moments of boredom and reflection for an endless stream of distraction? Have we lost the simple ability to just be present? This deep dive was based on the book Homo-Servus, The Collapse of Human Sovereignty in the Digital Era by Dr. Wahiba Malawi, Dr. Mubarakut Muhammad, and Dr. Halima Malawi. Thanks so much for tuning in.